The idea of sled dogs has been around for thousands of years. Now these energetic canines are being highlighted in a new book, Dogs on the Trail, A Year in the Life, written by Mushers Blair Braverman and Quince Mountain. In this conversation, we discuss what the dogs do each season, why this is a sport that's easy to fall in love with, and we talk about why their fans are known as ugly dogs.
Tristan, and I am so excited to be sharing a really fun book with you today. It's called Dogs on the Trail. Yes, A Year in the Life, written by my guests, Blair Braverman and Quince Mountain. Brave and Mountain are kind of like perfect last names for you both, by the way. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're so happy to be here.
We like them. Our kennel is called Braver Mountain Mushing. It's kind of combined their names.
So perfect. By the way, the book is available at Left Bank Books in store or online. So you two, husband and wife, this book is a chronicle of a year in the life of your dog team. And when I first picked it up, I said, oh my gosh, this is so cute, because I have 6 dogs. So this was like the best. I just looked through all the pictures first before I even read anything.
We started out, I was dating Blair. Blair had done this. I had never done this. I'd ridden horses. I'd done other things with animals, but she was into mushing and I was into Blair. And I knew there was another musher in our town. And I said, well, you maybe haven't mushed since you were in Norway last year. So let's get hooked up with this guy. And they went out mushing, and, she had a lot of skills. So he right away partnered up with his team. And then, they were so into it. And then once I got on the runners, I was completely hooked. It's incredible.
I'm so excited to chat about this book. I have so many questions for you. But first, I understand you have a PowerPoint to tell us about.
First off, this is actually our first event. And we did make a promise to fans of the team that one of our dogs, Flame, who loves clothing, would wear a different outfit for every event that we're doing. So here, she's not with us in person, but this is her outfit she put on this morning just for you guys. And she loves the library and Left Bank Books. So thank you so much for having us out here.
Oh, here we are. Mushing.
Here we are. Flame is a sled dog, but we'll get to the business of it. And I want to say also, this photo, which is incredible, is by a photographer named Nathaniel Wilder. We have a number of photographers represented in this book who are not us, and they are absolutely incredible. So I wish everyone involved could have been here tonight, because they have stories of their own as well.
These people are hardcore. You know how Nathaniel, why he got this photo is because he was willing to fly to Anchorage, Alaska. Then he drove 6 hours north. Then he got on a snow machine or a snowmobile, whatever you call it, snow go, and drove 76 miles on the snow machine. Then he mushed out with Blair 25 miles and got out his camera. So that is why we got the picture, and a lot went into it.
And he took this photo on the cover as well, maybe on that same day. So when we were thinking about how to put together a book about the dog team that would be a book of photos and something really approachable, mushing is one of those things that most people never get a chance to encounter. It seems so exotic if you have never seen sled dogs yourself. So we wanted something that would sort of capture what the feeling is for us. And we decided to follow a year in the life of a dog team, because unlike, other winter sports like skiing or snowmobiling or ice fishing or whatever people are doing, sled dogs are year round. You do not park them in the garage the rest of the year. So we have winters that look like this. Then we have something we call mud season, which is when all the snow melts. It is our version of spring, and you can see how Jenga here feels about that mud. We have summer, which is, a time for splashing in lakes and rolling around in fields and wearing daisy crowns if you're a fashionable Flame.
They tolerate summer. They're a little okay, when's it going to get colder?
Yeah, they're a little impatient. They can't run when it's warm out, when it's above 50 degrees.
In harness.
In harness, right. They can't be pulling things. They can run, loose all over and run around trails and stuff.
And boy, do we.
They do. So our big challenge in the summer is like keeping the dogs entertained and having fun until it gets cold again, which is what we're all waiting for. But it's always an adventure because we have a little more time. We're not running and training as much, and we get to go have fun adventures in different parts of the North Woods. And then that brings us to fall, which is where we are now. And we start running with carts and bikes and scooters. And actually this year, this photo by Keith Thornhill is from a dryland race. Zagat and Jules, who are these dogs right here, pulled me on a scooter for a couple miles. And it's just like a fun event as the season's picking up again. And the past like 4 weekends, we've been at events like this, and the dogs have been having a blast. They get to see other dogs. They get to, see a trail that isn't their home trail. And pretty soon it's going to look like this again. We saw a couple snowflakes today, so we can't wait.
The dogs can't wait. I feel like they know.
I want to stop right here on this photo because you may recognize this dog, Peppy, from the front of the book. And she is like the third musher in the household. She makes so many decisions for the team. Peppy's a lead dog, which is something a lot of people have heard of, but might not have a great idea about what it means in mushing. You know what I always think of? If you imagine like preschoolers or kindergartners going for a walk with their two teachers, and you know how they all have to like hold hands with the teachers on the end. I always think of me as the musher as being one of those teachers, and then all the dogs in between are like a bunch of kindergartners holding hands. And then Peppy is the other adult on the other side of the line. So she and I are in communication a lot about like how to keep these chaotic youngsters moving in the same direction. They're thinkers, like the lead dogs are thinkers. And Peppy in particular, actually the dog with her in this photo, Blizzard, is also an incredible lead dog. We thought, Blizzard will help Peppy out, so there's a little less pressure on her. Peppy cannot stand sharing responsibility with anyone.
Not a great collaborator.
She's not a great collaborator. She's impatient. When we go long distances, normally you want to put two lead dogs next to each other because they keep each other company as they're making those decisions. Peppy does not have the patience to deal with a less competent dog beside her, and every dog in the world is less competent than her. So I don't know what we would do without this girl, but that's why she is on the cover of the book. So in addition to following the team through the course of a year, the cycle of a year in this book, we also have profiles of individual dogs. We have a couple double-digit dogs, and one of those is Harry, who's in the background of this photo. And he is one of our he's our gentle old man. And the dog in front of him, barking next to him, is his son, Clem, who has almost the exact same personality as him. Just truly two peas in a pod, just the most well-adjusted, kind, easygoing, enthusiastic, loves every other dog, just wonderful, petting them as therapy. The retirees do still run, and they also have certain areas of the farm and the house that are just theirs, that they sort of patrol and hang out, and they spend a lot of time in the garden, and we'll often catch them all napping in a pile in the sun. So they're very sweet, and they, I think, bring a lot of wisdom to the team. The younger dogs seem to really appreciate having the older presence. Now, on the flip side of our retirees, we do have puppies. We have puppies as dogs are retiring to keep our team about the same size. And this is little Mazzy. And Flame, fashionable Flame, has raised every young dog who's ever been near us. She has been auntie to the world.
And some chickens.
And some chickens. Any small thing, she'll raise chickens. She is afraid of human babies, but
That's the nut.
But anything else, she will adopt, and they will be hers.
Why is there no snow? Is that why you put this?
I wanted to include a photo here of some of the things we encounter on the trail, and how sometimes things can go wrong. In this case,
we took a wrong turn, went to Australia. And there was no snow. No, that was in Alaska, right?
This is in Alaska. It's a 30-mile stretch of trail with no snow at all. And I was on my own with the dogs.
They'll go. It's great for them. But if you have no snow, you can't slow down. You can't stop. You have nothing to hook down into, no snow or ice to anchor the sled into. That's what's scary.
Here's an example of just another tricky moment on the trail. I was following this trail with the team and I turned sideways. I thought that was where the trail went. And then I saw, if you look in the foreground, there's a little trail stake with an orange tip. That meant the trail went straight through the river and the dogs and I would have to go straight through the river if we wanted to follow it. That was an adventure. Sometimes, open water like that. Some of the dogs don't like water. I'll actually carry them in my arms, set them delicately down on the other side, little princesses like Flame, and Boo is kind of a princess too. And
we've worked on it more with the younger ones.
We do try to get them, used to water in the summer so they don't mind if they have to walk through a little bit in the winter. And then some of them just charge through and don't care. And I'm running after them with the sled, trying to keep it from tipping over and getting wet because, all the supplies, to camp that night and your dog food and your cooker to melt snow, you can be out there for days without seeing people. And if, your supplies get wet or you lose your sled or things break, like you could be in a survival situation pretty quickly. It's not just yourself. The dogs are completely trusting you to meet all their needs. And it's a lot of responsibility and also just a wonderful feeling to be out there. The team's relying on you, you're relying on them, and you're just able to do incredible things when you're working together. I think that's the end of our photos right here.
There's more in the book.
There are more in the book.
Highly recommend.
And there are some stories in here and stuff. And it is kid friendly. A few people have asked if it's kid friendly.
That was so fun. That was awesome to see those pictures. So the Iditarod is this grueling 1,000-mile race across the Alaskan wilderness. Tell me about the physical and emotional journey of competing in the Iditarod.
We've both raced in the Iditarod, and we probably would have different answers to that because it's different for, it's an incredibly intense experience. When I first got into mushing, I write about this a little bit in the book too. I didn't want to race at all. I didn't get it because I was like, I love being in the woods with dogs. Why would I turn that into a competition? Like no dog could ever be a loser. Like it just it was like a different mindset. I was like, this is not for me. I just want to go camping with my dogs. And, now I think, I just didn't get it because when I was friends with another musher who was like, come to a race. And as soon as I got there, I was like, I pictured like some really competitive, like people are ranking dogs. I don't know. And it actually just is like a chance for the community to come together. You're seeing other dog teams. You can explore a brand new trail and you get a map. So you don't have to worry about like road crossings. If you have even a tiny question, there's 1 million volunteer veterinarians there who want to like teach you everything. It's just like a really safe and it's not easy necessarily, but it's a very fundamental way to go. Like if you want to go 300 miles or 500 miles or 1,000, like it would be so hard to set up that journey from home with all the road crossings and all the like resupplies and, what if a dog gets tired and, they want to stop running, but other dogs want to keep running. And when you're in a race, you get to have that journey and it's like set up for you. And all you think about is being on that trail with your team and the other things around it are taken care of. So when we talk about racing, just in case anyone had the same idea about it that I did, it's not like, we're racing our dogs to see who's a good dog and who's not. Like, it's not like that at all. It's like a chance to have an adventure with them in a structure that, allows us to really focus on that one thing.
When Blair goes out with the dogs, I'll help her get set up and she'll go out to run the dogs. And some people would call this a training run. I always think that's a little funny because to the dogs, it's just a run. They're going out on a run in the woods. Like, so she'll go out on a run and I can sort of go get some rest then, but I always sleep with one eye open, waiting just in case I get a satellite phone ping or a video call.
I'm not back.
They're not back. I start to get worried. Yeah. I'm like, is there a snowstorm and this makes sense because they slowed them down? Or is this like, what's going on? I start to get worried. It's always fine, but anything can happen. And it's just Blair and the team out there. But in the races, I sleep well.
Everyone's always like, aren't you worried when the other person's racing? And we're like, no.
It's the easiest day.
Someone else is responsible for that.
Right. There's a medical team, a veterinary team. There's the food dropped along the way. I don't have to go bring it there. Blair's not going to call. I forgot my mitten. She's not allowed to. She wouldn't do that. But yeah, truly the racing can be, I mean, what people don't talk about is how it allows you to do this very well organized expedition, and it gives you structure to it. And the dogs definitely pick up on the energy of race day. They love it.
They get
love
excited.
Showing off to the other dogs. It like makes a team very coherent.
Like your dog getting to the dog park and they're like, other dogs like me. Like that's the energy.
Yeah. Although there's a teamness to it too.
Yeah.
They're like my team. We know what we're doing. They know.
They get cliquish.
Even to get to qualify and be in it and complete it is such an accomplishment. But that very day is like, it's a challenge, maybe grueling, but it's also a kind of high, and it's something that you have earned over years or months or probably years of training to get to that point where you're truly ready to go do that and think you have a very good shot at completing it. And that's how Iditarod is. It is an accomplishment to finish that race, or to even get to the start line is incredibly difficult. To be
out there. I remember being out there, and there were all these parts of the trail I had, read books about, like Gary Paulson's Winter Dance, which is a beautiful book. And I read obsessively as a kid, and just hearing mushers talk about these places along the trail, like these certain challenges or rivers or mountain ranges, the steps, the gorge, the burn, like they have these like one name words that
the happy river steps.
Yeah, which are just like these cliffs. I remember just being like, I can't believe that these things that are legendary, like I'm about to mush over them, like me. Even more than that, I was like, I can't believe that Peppy is about to lead us over the Alaska range. Like, it was less the disbelief at myself and more like, wow, we have come so far as a team. Like, it's not me doing it. It is these dogs I trust so much who are taking me on this journey I've been hearing about for decades. That was so unexpectedly moving to me.
I imagine a lot of your fans come and watch you, or at least they follow on social media. And I know your fans, they call themselves the Ugly Dogs. Can you tell us where that name came from? I know you talk about it in the book a little bit, but tell us a little bit about that community of supporters that now follow you and your dogs online.
I don't know how we got so lucky to meet these incredible people and to have them care about our dogs and the things we do with them. It's still like
each other.
Right. And each other. It's, years ago, that someone told me on Twitter, go back to your ugly dogs, just to like,
they were trolling her.
Yeah. And I thought that was a very funny sentence. Someone commented, it sounded like the title of a Raymond Carver story. And then it was some fans of the team who said we should have a name. We'll call ourselves the Ugly Dogs because Blair will always come back to us. And
so the dogs aren't ugly.
It's not. That is the big misconception. Our dogs, the ugly dogs are human. The pretty dogs are dogs.
Yeah, like people are like, I love these dogs and these dogs, but like they're not particularly ugly.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, those are the humans. Don't worry.
People always say that, like, your dogs aren't ugly, like they're comforting us, and we know. But it's this community.
There's no such thing as an ugly dog anyway, so I totally
right. Right, they just become distinguished as they look more and more unusual, like Grinch.
It has become this thing bigger than the sum of its parts. I mean, the community online, there are people who.
It's on Twitter. If you like, or use Twitter and want to follow the dog team, you can.
I mean, we can't take credit. Like it's not us. It's this group of people, and none of anybody who's a part of it is ever alone. You can log in that morning and you have someone. And I think during the pandemic, it has been so helpful to people, and it's the most generous people, whether it's time, whether it's talent, whether it's knitting each other. Right now there's a card exchange, a holiday card exchange.
Right.
People send their cards. We carry them by sled
Supporting
dog
each
to the
other
post
through tough
office,
times.
put a little stamp, and then we send them back
Yeah.
out. And we see the cards come in from these people who now have written to each other for 2-3 years.
Mhm.
There's some new people. And then, they have done fundraising for all the causes all along the Iditarod Trail and the
Right.
villages,
Schools
and
and
the Kobuk
villages,
440
veterinary
Trail.
outreach.
There's one whole
just-
community of kids that has ukuleles thanks to the ugly dogs.
Right, like in a rural village, so they can all have an instrument to
During
learn
the
music.
pandemic,
Right.
yeah, it was a very isolated town, and so it is just the most thoughtful people, and that has been, what a time to
Yeah.
I didn't expect to have my faith in humanity restored through this sport, but it has been something. So between the dogs and the people we're always sort of uplifted by others, and I hope we can give some of that back. This book is part of that. I hope that just fun is here, and anybody who doesn't know what this is or is, I hope it's like perfectly inviting and explanatory. If not, find us on Twitter. You can ask us.
Yeah.
We're there all the time. We're very accessible. If I don't get back to you for a few days, it's probably a race or a dog got a wild hair or something, or I'm on a big journey. But we'll get to you eventually. And there's the hashtag Ugly Dogs is a good group, and it's a good place to start though. And I hope if what it does is give people an idea about what dogs can do, whether that's mushing or that's someone else, or what people can do outside. Mm-hmm. I'm not someone who ever thought I'd be doing this. I mean, I just fell for Blair and sort of. He
is being modest. When I met him, we live in a house made of logs that he cut down and dragged out of the forest with horses himself.
That's because, sure, I have done other things, but I never pictured.
He was a horse guy before we met.
I would not have known this was possible. I wouldn't.
Blair, your first book was an excellent memoir. Welcome to the Goddamn Ice Cube. It recounts your first attraction to the adventure and danger of the Arctic and dog racing, but it's also about the courage that it takes to be a woman in the male-dominated sport. There's like a push and pull between being afraid, being brave in the book. So do you still find yourself between these two places?
Oh, that's a really good question. Because I think the answer is yes and no, which is how you know it's a good question. The book, Ice Cube, Welcome to the Goddamn Ice Cube, in some ways, I was just reflecting on it this week, feels like I could never have written it now. It's from a very specific place in my life where I was, trying to figure out how I could make a life for myself in the north, in the Norwegian Arctic, where I lived for quite a while, and in, other northern places, which, were not where I grew up. And yet I was also very afraid. I had, dealt with some sexual violence and threats, and was like, how can I live in a place that's like male dominated and feels threatening to me? And like, who am I there? And that was really the question that I was trying to answer with that book and in my life at that time. And I think now we just live, the slight spoiler, I think Ice Cube ends with the sentiment that like after sort of trying on these different norths, I made my own, and that was my home with Q. We've been together for 10 years now, and our dogs and it's ours. It's not, we get to choose who we hang out with. And if someone is a lousy, mean person, we don't hang out with them. Like, it's not the problem you have when you're a teenager and you can't necessarily pick your crowd.
Oh my gosh, true. So true.
It feels really different because I don't have any more insecurity about whether I belong here. I just know that it's my home, and I'm
part of the happy ending.
And he's part of my happy. You're a big part. Like, our life right now is the sequel to that book, I think.
Oh man, I wouldn't go back. Are any of you listening? Okay, so this is pre-recorded, which is gonna make the Q&A a little awkward, but I'm gonna try and I'm gonna just zone in, and I'm gonna envision who the audience is. And there are some people who are like 15 or however old Blair was in this book, and thinking back to myself, especially, as a young transgender person, like just not being able to determine my own life in the world. And I think if there's one thing that we can show as the human side of our dog team is that like you can get away from all that. You really can. Like, I don't mean like, oh, it gets better just passively, but I mean like if you're in a crappy circumstance or people don't get you or whatever, there are people in the world, and the ugly dogs have taught us that, and these dogs have taught us that there is a place for you, and it will seem so far away at some point. It'll just seem so far away. Just keep going, be forward oriented like these sled dogs, and just one foot in front of the other. Don't look back, and you will find your people, your dog team, your world.
I think that's so beautiful. So you feel like you found a home in dog racing and the Arctic community, sounds like.
Absolutely. I found it and made it, sort of seized it. I don't know. I mean, we're very lucky that you don't sort of find a life quite like this one. There were some things we had to invent and make. And it took a little trial and error. I'd say we're always learning and figuring out how to do things better. But yeah, the answer is yes. The short answer is yes.
We keep going. That's what you do. You just keep going. You remember what you need to remember. You don't, I'm not living in denial, but just keep moving. Don't let something get you hung up.
Yeah.
And we're running out of time, but last question. If your dogs could talk, what would they say about you?
About us?
Yeah. What would they say if they could talk about you for a while? Write the Blair and Q book.
God, that's so good. Like,
I think they'd say we smell bad because we don't roll in enough dead things.
Yeah, they would wonder why we like conserve so much food. Like we don't eat all the food in front of us like immediately.
Right. And we sometimes like chop up large amounts of meat and then we put it away instead of burying it.
That's a weird one. Yeah.
It's a weird, I think
sometimes I have a thing and I'm like, this is really good. You want some? I don't think they do that.
No,
I think
something's
they're like,
good, they eat it
this
themselves.
is so good. You don't want any, baby. Like, yeah.
That was actually so funny in the book when you were talking about whenever the snow melts and the dog's like, oh, cool, here's what I buried. And they find everything. I mean, you really go through every season and it is so much fun to see what it's like and see, you really feel like you took us through your life with all of these little characters. And I am such a fan of so many of your dogs. Like Flame is like just my spirit animal. And then is it Pepe? I know you said earlier, Pepe. Pepe is like so smart when you're talking about you just trust what he chooses to do. And you just become super fans of these dogs. I'm an ugly dog. No, I just can't help it.
Welcome.
We wanted to write like 10 pages about each dog. And unfortunately, the publisher limited us to like
one,
they're like, can you select
one volume?
Can you just highlight 8 dogs and sort of cover and it's like, come on, really? But yeah, but we
can't have 500 pages to write a manifesto about every single dog individually. That doesn't work.
So you want to know everything they've ever done? Because it's
everything?
all we talk about. It must be how people talk who have children. We have dogs. If you go to Left Bank Books and get some Marks or Kropotkin, I hope you also get a copy of Dogs on the Trail because, when things get rough, you start to feel a little depressed. Just come on in here and, this will be a little bit of eye bleach. And then you can go back to the hard stuff, which is also important to do too.
Well, what a beautiful way to end it. Very true. The book is available at Left Bank Books. Head to left-bank.com to find out more. Dogs on the Trail, a year in the life, written by my fabulous guests. You guys could have your own talk show. You're so fun to you just go back and forth so well. It's awesome. Thanks so much for being here.
Could be like you could be on it, please.
We can just sit around and talk about dogs for hours. I mean, this is great.
All right. Jonathan, when are we coming?
And I'm chat. Also go to the library. I didn't mean to slight the library there. Go to the bookstore, go to the library, do both.
I grew up in a library practically. I in college I was voted most likely to be found in the library at any given time. Thank you, the library, also for having us here. We love you so much.
Love it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Julie. It was so great to talk to you.